Well, good day from George, South Africa, and I want to welcome you to season 2 of Our World Today. Thank you for joining us today, and I am looking forward to sharing this subject matter with you. I just like the whole idea, ladies and gentlemen, of starting this season in kind of like a different sort of a mode. So, therefore, I've put on a shirt and tie today, and I guess I better sit up a little bit so at least you can get a little bit more of the tie. But why do we do a program like this? Why? Because I happen to personally believe that Philip DeFries has a unique perspective on the world that we live in today. And I'm not trying to say that because I'm being egotistical or anything of that nature. Not at all. But I'm facing up to the reality and the fact that here I am, a 73-year-old man who is concerned about the world that I live in and does research, which research indicates on a week-by-week kind of a basis that I can stimulate my brain, but at the same time, hopefully stimulate other people to start looking at different kinds of perspectives and understandings that arise from living inside the kingdom of God. Because living in the kingdom makes all the difference in the world. And because it is in such a manner that when we begin to recognize a kingdom perspective, God gives us a heart for all of mankind. I'm not here to be part of the exclusive brethren kind of a club. No way. That's not my scene. I've never been there, not for decades on end. God put something in my heart that says I need to exercise compassion inside of this world that I live in. I exercise that compassion because it's not Philip DeFries that's doing it. It's Christ who lives in me that enables that to become a total reality in one way or another. Am I perfect in the demonstration of that? But of course I'm not. No way that that's going to be the case. But we're endeavoring each and every time we come together to give you a kingdom perspective on what is going on in our world today. This world is composed of many, many factors of life. And we're trying to look at all the factors of life. We're trying to look at all the influences of life that come our way, not the least of which is the most important influence of our life, which is our family. We need a family perspective, and so we strongly identify to that which not only accentuates the family, but that which affects the family. And I think that that takes priority in anything that we say and anything that we do. Having said that, I know the importance of our faith and how that is something which is a mighty strong influence in our lives. And so taking precedence in our lives, affecting our family and influencing our family is our faith. And so our faith, from the choice that we have made in life, in which we talked about in our recent program, You and the End Times, our faith is faith in Jesus Christ, who has set us free from the law of sin and death. And in being set free, that doesn't mean that we don't sin. It just means that we have a power within us that enables us to be in a place where we are allowing Jesus to permeate us and to have a proper sway and a proper stability within our lives. So we're looking at the influence of faith, but we're looking at the influence of education as well, because education is extremely important. We're going to get into that as we go along, because education makes a very strong impact. I am at all times never an expert, but at all times I am a student. I'm always in a place where I'm learning. I'm striving to put proper influences into my life in terms of what I am filling up my brain with. So education becomes a very, very important part of all of that. We're talking about the 7 mountains of influence, and then we go on from there into our business life, because everything we do demands from a biblical basis that we become good stewards of the manifold grace of God. I want to make sure that I operate under certain guidelines, certain standards, certain morals, certain principles, which demand that I be a good businessman and take good accountability of what God has given me to handle as a manager of his goods. Because everything that I have is not mine, it belongs to God. So I'm here to be a good steward of what he's given. And having said all that, I think that we also need to understand that there's other areas that influence us. For instance, media is part of that. What are we informing our lives with if we are constantly watching corruptible media? We've got to get a hold of that, ladies and gentlemen. We've got to do something about that, because corruptible media is everywhere. It's false. It's got the spirit of lies written all over it. It doesn't investigate. It doesn't get to the truth because it's not concerned about the truth. All that they want is to sell what their product is all about. I'm not here to sell anything. Just want people to get a hold of the truth and understand what the truth is and promote the truth and to be on the cutting edge of the truth. We talk about arts and entertainment, and that occupies such a very, very strong influence in each and every one of our lives, because most people that I know of have a television, and most of that we look at, we have to really make some sterling, and we're not making sterling choices, we're making some pretty corruptible choices. Certain things I'm not going to watch. When it comes to arts and entertainment, I'm not going to go to see movies that have all kinds of filthy language attached to it. I won't do that. I'm not going to go to a movie where there's wanton sex. I'm not going to do that. And because that's not something which I believe is appropriate. It's not something which is going to lead me to a higher understanding of what my partner is all about. All that it's going to do is introduce some other influences that in turn would denigrate what God's high and his holy standard are all about. So looking at all of these influences, I think that we really need to look at how we must set up our lives. And I would like to deal with some topics in the course of today in an article that was written in the New York Post. I don't trust the New York Times. I don't trust the Washington Post. I don't trust a lot of publications. I don't trust CNN, and I don't trust all the mainline networks. I'm telling you now, because I don't think they do investigation properly. I think they have a bias, and I think that they exercise their bias to the extreme left of life. And I don't want to influence my life in that regards. If they had more of a balance, I would be found getting stuck in there. But Tamar Lapin, Steve Nelson, and Mark Moore talked about the speech that was given on Sunday by Donald Trump, his first speech in 6 weeks. And basically, since he left office, and he spoke at the Conservative Political Action Committee meeting in Orlando, Florida, on the last 4 days of the week, well, last 3 days of last week, and the first day of this week. And so they made mention of something, and I'd like to refer to it because there were some certain points that came out, and I want to bring them to your attention quickly. He teased a possible 2024 run, and what else is new? He bashed the Biden administration at the Conservative Political Action Conference on Sunday as he delivered his first public speech since leaving the White House. He was greeted with a standing ovation as he took the stage to declare that our movement is just getting started. He said these words, "I stand before you today to declare that the incredible journey we began 4 years ago is far from over." He told the enthusiastic crowd, "Our movement of proud, hardworking American patriots is just getting started, and in the end we will win," while making clear that he intends to remain a force in the Republican Party. He hinted also at a possible run for the presidency again in 2024. He also said he would be working to get strong, tough Republicans elected and slammed rumors that he planned on starting a new political party as fake news. Guess what? Yours truly, me, I've got to eat some really, really humble pie because I was one of those. That kind of felt to my heart of hearts that he was going to start a new movement. But everything that he's done in 6 weeks has indicated he's not going to go that direction at all. Quite frankly, I am grateful. If he becomes the main influence in my own political party, the Republican Party, I am going to be extremely, extremely grateful. He said this also, "We all knew the Biden administration was going to be bad, but no one knew how bad they were going to be." He said, "There's no better example than the new and horrible crisis on our southern border. In just 1 short month, we have gone from America first to America last." He argued that Biden's immigration policy would cost Democrats the next 2 federal elections. Who said that Donald Trump does not have the spirit of prophecy over him? I'm not saying that he is a prophet. No way. I'm not saying that. I'm saying he is predicting what's going to happen in the next 2 elections. Next year, at the end of next year, and then in 2024. He called for the reopening of the nation's schools amid the pandemic, charging that Biden had sold out America's students to the teachers unions, especially in the big cities. Joe Biden has shamefully betrayed America's youth, he said, and is cruelly keeping our children locked in their homes. No reason for whatsoever. They want to get out. They are cheating the next generation of Americans out of the future. Moms and dads want their kids to go to school. He slammed big tech and called for fair competition, and he named Twitter, Google, and Facebook. And then he said these words, and I thought this was probably, for me at least, it was one of the highlights. Our party is based on love for America and the belief that this is a nation that has been blessed by God. He said, we respect our American flag, and the people began to shout, "We love you, we love you, we love you." He said, it's an honor to get the crowd's adoration. Then he talked about defending the lives of the unborn child. Yes, thank God for that. And for uploading the Judeo-Christian values of America's founders. He said, we embrace free thought and we reject left-wing lunacy, and we reject cancel culture. That's all that we've been talking about during the course of the last week. the cancel culture. Go and look at it. It's still there on Facebook. It's going to be there for quite a while. He says, we believe in law and order, and we don't defund the police. We defend the police. We don't defund the police. I think this is the time to actually go to an article that was written by Brian Trusdell on the 25th of February, and it's headlined in this manner. Senator Tommy Tuberville spoke to Newsmax television, and he said these words, teachers' unions are actually killing our kids. He said these words. Senator Tommy Tuberville is the freshman senator. He's a former coach at Arkansas State in the college ranks from Miami, Florida, the University of Miami, Texas A&M, Mississippi, Auburn, Texas Tech, and Cincinnati. These are places where he used to be the football coach. He is now the United States freshman senator from the state of Alabama, and Tommy Tuberville is his name, and he said these words. He said, we've got to open up. These teachers' unions are actually killing our kids, and they need to wake up. Now, he's 66 years old, I'm 73, and I'm speaking with a great deal of heat. It's time for the teachers' unions to be rebuked because they are killing our kids in the United States of America. Guess what? Same thing is happening here, except many of us have said very straightforward, we are not going to be intimidated, and we're going to do our private thing, and we're going to get on with the job. And he said, he made this statement, he said, we've thrown money at them, we're getting ready to throw another $170 billion to our schools when we start talking about a reconciliation deal. He said the problem is an increase in mental health episodes resulting in suicide are beginning to take precedence. And the result of all of this is because of the COVID virus, where teachers are now, the teachers' unions are to be blamed for taking the kids and moving them out for several months on end with no hope in sight. He said something as they finished off. He said, education is the key to freedom. He said, you're not just a teacher. He gave a challenge to them. He said, you're an educator, you're a coach, you're a mentor, you're a counselor, you're a mom and a dad to kids away from home for 6 to 8 hours a day. A lot of these kids don't even have parents. It's time to stand up, ladies and gentlemen. It's time for people to make a difference. Ken Huber comes from Tawas City in the United States of America, and a small American newspaper in the state of Michigan had the guts to say what most of the rest of us are thinking. And it asked the question. Ken Huber wrote the letter to the editor of this small newspaper, and he asked the question, what has America become? And guess what? From my perspective, because I'm an American living in South Africa, very proud of the fact that I am an American, but I've lived in South Africa and I understand this nation. I'm called a true South African because I've lived here for 37 years of my life, and I have a unique perspective on our world today, and I want to accentuate that. When I look at the state of Michigan, where my beautiful son and his beautiful family live, in the city of, or the town of South Haven on the Lake Michigan, I think about this dear man that has written a gutsy letter to the editor, what has America become? And he says these words, has America become the land of special interest and home of the double standard? I can say the same thing here in the Republic of South Africa. Let's see, if we lie to the Congress, it's a felony. And if the Congress lies to us, it's just politics. If we dislike a black person, we're racist. And if a black dislikes whites, it's their First Amendment right. Phew, that's strong. The government spends millions to rehabilitate criminals, and they do almost nothing for the victims of the criminals. In public schools, you can teach that homosexuality is okay, but you better not use the word God in the process. You can kill an unborn child, but it's wrong to execute a mass murderer. We don't burn books in America. We now rewrite them. We got rid of the communist and socialist threat by renaming them progressives. We are unable to close our border with Mexico, but have no problem protecting the 38th parallel in Korea. If you protest against President Obama's policies, you're a terrorist. But if you burn an American flag or George Bush in effigy, it was your First Amendment right. You could say the same thing in the Trump administration. You can have pornography on TV or the internet, but you better not put a nativity scene in a public park during Christmas. We have eliminated all criminals in America. They are now called sick people. We can now use a human fetus for medical research, but it's wrong to use an animal. We take money from those who work hard for it and give it to those who don't want to work. We all support the Constitution, but only when it supports our political ideology. We still have freedom of speech, but only if we are being politically correct. Parenting has been replaced with Ritalin and video games. The land of opportunity is now the land of handouts. The similarity between Hurricane Katrina and the Gulf oil spill is that neither president did anything to help. And how do we handle a major crisis today? The government appoints a committee to determine who's at fault, uses tax money to do it, then threatens them, passes a law, raises our taxes. Tells us the problem is solved so they can get back to their re-election campaigns. What has happened to the land of the free and to the home of the brave? So, that's pretty strong language. I'm running out of time, so I need to finish this program off. An article that was written this past week, here in South Africa in the Daily Maverick. It's headlined, "The Crumbling House That Ace Magashule Built." It's an article written by Felix Langamandla, Ansu Thom, Christy Nortier, and Gillian Green. It talks about the current second most powerful man inside the African National Congress here in South Africa, Ace Magashule, and it highlights the crumbling house that he built when he was the premier of the state called Free State here in South Africa. He was the premier, and for those of us who are Americans, you might not understand who a premier is. It's basically the same as a governor of a state in the United States of America. And but in the British world, you will know that provinces take the places of states, and districts take the place of counties, and we don't talk about federal government. We talk about an executive government here in South Africa, Australia, Great Britain. But Great Britain has a king and a queen, or whatever they want to call them. They have a House of Lords and they have a House of Commons. Here we have, kind of like, there's another expression about a lower house and an upper house. But they all kind of work together, and Ace Magashule is considered the Secretary General of the African National Congress, which in all practical purposes is the second most powerful position in the country of South Africa. The president occupies the top role. But when he was the premier, there were several projects that were undertaken with mega millions that were poured out, 6 projects in particular. One of the places was a prison that was supposed to be turned down, and mega millions was supposed to be spent to put together a new kind of a place for the provincial parliament in the Free State. And 11 million was spent to start, and it's now a heaping wreck, and the rest of the money, nobody knows where it's at. And his office authorized that. There were 230 houses that were to be built for the beneficiaries of a project. At the moment, most of the houses are derelict, and only a few have been occupied. I wanted to say these things because have you ever heard of what we call the patronage system? You paid for me, gave me money for my campaign, and I will turn that around and give you this and give you that. That's the patronage system. That is rampant. And I said all that to finish off the program and say, ladies and gentlemen, would you do me a kind favor and form groups that will consistently, on a regular basis, pray that God will wipe out the patronage system in the Republic of South Africa. It is killing our land. Most people that have listened to my programs will understand that economically the government has spent its way into a place where there is no confidence from any any company, any kind of a loan facility that will be given, because our nation, by all the rating systems, is in a junk status. There's one nation on planet Earth that is bailing out South Africa right now, and that is the Communist Chinese Party. And they're the only ones. And why are they doing that? Because they can influence virtually every decision at the top of this country. Will you please pray that the patronage system will be turned around, and that this nation will begin to have much less dependency upon the eastern part of the world and have a greater dependency upon the western part of the world? Because in doing that, relationships can be formed that can cause projects that get started not to be intended to some particular person who might not even have a 12th grade or even a 4th grade education, and thereby they have to depend upon certain people to give them money, and they in turn hand them back projects that will in turn give them more money, so that they in turn can literally suck off of each other. That system, that spirit needs to be rebuked. And it needs to go. Will you please pray with us? And will you also please pray that a group that is coming here, top flight business people in our nation, are converging in less than 2 weeks from now on the city of George, because they're coming here to talk about Project SA, and we're bringing together business people, church leaders, and people that are coming from all walks of life in the city of George to begin to say, how can we forge a kingdom identity in all the influences of life in the city of George? Will you please pray, number one, for the patronage system to die in the land of South Africa, and number two, that Project South Africa will get off the ground and will have no allegiances to any forces of darkness or to the flesh, but are under the influence of the Holy Spirit that will bring about meaningful and powerful change. May we pray for that in Jesus' name. God bless you, and thank you for joining us. Bye now.